I said it before and I'll say it again. Wrestling fans love callbacks in wrestling. Anytime you get rivals or upcoming opponents referring back to their past and their history, it always seems to create further interest and drama leading up to their match. At the time of this recording, the most recent example I can provide is the Bayley and Becky Lynch promo from Raw. Now, to be honest, a program involving these two initially really wouldn't capture my imagination. If you told me a week or two ago that Bayley and Becky Lynch would be having some sort of feud, I really wouldn't give a damn. But the segment that they had actually changed my perception of this because they brought up the past. They actually talked about stuff that happened like 7 or 8 years ago. You know, they reminded us of the 3 of the 4 horsewomen being called up to the main roster in 2015 and having Bayley being left in NXT for quite a significant amount of time. Now, some may say that calling back to something that happened in 2015 may be a little, too late, but I, for one, appreciate the sentiment and the history that WWE actually brought up. Now, I like to do the same thing in my writing, referring back to Impetus's history, as short as it may be. In the 2-year, existence of Impetus, many characters have changed and evolved in that time, facing many different opponents at the same time along the way. So, a really interesting and, I believe, a really cool throwback between two characters that have, met in the past is the rivalry between Greg Williams and Johnny Fabuloso. Now, back on episode 47, the Rebel, now known as Greg Williams, was known as the clownish, curious man called Greg Gordo. Wanting to know more about certain stars on the roster, Greg's curiosity heightened. However, another curious man and star called Johnny Fabuloso took this as an opportunity. The overly tanned and flamboyant model saw Greg's curiosity as a great chance to become partners. Tag team partners, of course, in hopes to compete for the vacant tag team championships at the time. On this episode, episode 47, Johnny tries to worm his way into a partnership with Greg by asking him ever so nicely in the privacy of their own locker room to tan his back for him. The next week, Greg defeats the debuting rookie known as Jimmy Sparrow, only to have his hand raised by none other than Johnny Fabuloso. With Greg irritated in these two segments, whether he liked it or not, it seemed as though a partnership between the two was blossoming right before the huge tag team title tournament. However, episode 49 flipped Greg's career on its head. Refusing to approach a ridiculous gimmick with Johnny, Greg aired his grievances about his perception in the company in a scene that has since been referred to as the Truth Bomb. Greg left the ring, leaving Johnny all by himself, clueless of what to do, and the tag team match took place without Greg. It was a handicap match. Of course, Johnny lost. From here, Greg's brash attitude propelled him into the main event status, while Johnny searched for a new partner in crime. If you haven't listened to the Greg Williams story, these segments, along with so many more, are further detailed into what made Greg not only turn from Gordo to Williams, but into a 2-time world champion. Strongly recommend you go and actually listen to it because it really does highlight an evolution of a character. Now, the reason why I bring all this up is because we are reminded of this whole story again over a year later. And my oh my, how a year changes everything. Episode 109, Greg Williams holds the gold and has cemented himself as a top-tier competitor. However, with Johnny Fabuloso finding a stylist, manager, and partner in a man called Terri Delighta, he wormed his way into the title picture. With Johnny the new challenger, he decided to play mind games with Greg, reminding him of their past. Episode 110 saw Johnny approach the champion in his locker room, asking him to tan his back. Episode 111 saw Greg take on the same rookie he faced on episode 48, Jimmy Sparrow. With the Rebel repeating history, Johnny did the same thing as he raised the Rebel's hand in success. And much like episode 49, episode 112 had a truth bomb blow up a tag team match where we were supposed to see, once again, Greg and Johnny compete in tag team action. However, this time around, the bomb was dropped by Johnny himself. Johnny decked the champion and cut his own scathing, infuriated promo, claiming that if it wasn't for their history, none of this would have happened for Greg. Greg would be nothing without him. Now it's Johnny's turn for success. Now it's Johnny's turn for attention, and it's his turn for the world title. Now from here, the rivalry grew, and unlike many callbacks that you see in wrestling stories, it became less about the past and actually more about the future. A little bit more interesting and dramatic and tense scenes actually played out up until the pay-per-view. But it's the history between these two that was the beginning spark of their feud, in which led to more comedic and, as I said, intense scenes. Now, make sure you follow the recent episodes for their growing rivalry. I guarantee you won't regret it. As I said, it's intense, but it's also very funny. A lot of creativity goes into, the comedy of it, which I've explained is kind of hard to do. So let me know if it's actually funny or not. Spoiler alert, there's whipped cream involved. I'll just leave it at that. But I guess my overall point here is to let writers know, to let audience members know, to let all wrestling fans know that history is such a great way to enhance a rivalry, and I believe I did that with Johnny's ascendance to the world title picture against Greg. So go ahead, check out the Impetus episodes. You'll hear the Greg Williams and Johnny Fabuloso rivalry, you know, as I said, ascend into the pay-per-view, but you'll see and hear so many different other rivalries, so many different character evolutions along the way, and I really feel like I'm doing a good job in communicating, you know, everybody's personalities and everybody's sort of emotions as the weeks progress.